Welcome to Real Reasons TV. I'm your host, Chester West. In today's episode, we have a special guest, Muhammad Abdul-Raheem, the author of the book, The N-Word is No Secret to Secret Service. Welcome aboard.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, brother.
Happy to be here, bro.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's a pleasure, man.
Thank you.
So, purchased your book.
Thank you. Thank you for the support.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And I wanted to just say, first and foremost, family, that I've read a lot of books in my time, and in particular of all various issues. But this particular book right here kept me intrigued all week. I completed this book this week to make sure that I've got a full grasp of what Brother Muhammad was trying to do for us and getting us the insight of what takes place in the Secret Service. So with no further ado, I really want to see what the brother has to tell us in his own words, and we can expand more about what was being written in your book.
Okay.
So let's just go back a little bit in your childhood. Let's kind of get a little brief history about your childhood, where you're from, and how things began.
Okay. So I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and my mother's from Trenton, New Jersey. My father, he's from Bronx, New York. So I think I probably stayed in Brooklyn until around the age young, maybe 7 years old or something like that. Then we moved to Trenton, New Jersey. Moved to Trenton, New Jersey, which is the birthplace of my mother. So when we moved to Trenton, New Jersey, as I said in the book, my mother's an educator as well, and her and my father, they also started an African Center school called Timbuktu Academy. So the first school that I went to was an African Center school called African People's Action School, which that was the first school that I went to. And in that school, I learned pretty much everything throughout my academic, from kindergarten all the way up to high school to 12. That's pretty much where I learned. That school is where I learned everything that I pretty much needed to know. So my childhood was, just like everybody else's in Trenton, pretty much, besides the fact that me and my siblings, we went to this school. So we had one aspect where we were, regular kids in the neighborhood, and then another one where we were also learning other things. And also, as I discussed in the book, another aspect where we were raised Muslim. My mother converted to Islam, my father converted to Islam. So I was learning, as a child, I was learning about Islam, I was learning my African history, and I also was, in the hood with everybody else. So it's kind of unique.
It made you very well-rounded, I'm sure. I mean, to see all these facets of life coming together in such a youthful age.
Right.
And you can really see that as I began to read your words in the book. You can see how you elaborate and you paint such vivid pictures. So then after you growing up, you eventually end up at Trenton, Jersey.
Trenton, New Jersey, Stuyvesant Avenue, Trenton, New Jersey.
Which I thought that was funny too at one moment, because you went from Bed-Stuy, New York, to Stuyvesant.
Yep, Trenton, New Jersey, Victoria Street and Trenton, New Jersey.
You just couldn't get rid of Bed-Stuy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so then, after your phenomenal education in the African People Action School, and then the Islamic Afrocentric School, you go to Gregory School.
Yeah. That was a major shocker for me. That was a shocker for
Why?
me. So the school, African People's Action School, only went up to 5th grade.
Okay.
So for 6th grade, I had to go to the local public school where all my neighborhood friends went. So I was used to a certain way of, a certain structure, a certain way of learning. Like I said, in the African People's Action School, we were learning all kinds of things about our history, industrial arts, children's theater. We were just learning on a whole different level, So when I went to Gregory School, the first shocking thing for me was the national anthem. I was like, what's this, So went into a class with, I was pretty familiar with some of the kids in the class, because again, we are from the same neighborhood. Not all of them, but some of them. So when I went into the class, it was like, they started playing a song over this is the 6th grade for me. I'd never heard it before. I'm like, what's this? And they was like, everybody stood up and put their hand on their chest, and I'm like, what's going on? And they started singing some song. I'm like, what's that? And then it just ain't rubbing me right. I was like, I don't know what that is. I'm not doing that. So of course that right there made me stick out kind of like a sore thumb, because I didn't know what the song was. Then I heard that it was the Pledge of Allegiance. They had to do that every morning in school over the loudspeaker. They did this every morning. So that was the first new shocker for me. In addition to that, I wasn't learning anything. It was pretty much like a waste of my. I would just go to class and it was a waste of time compared to what I was already doing before. Mm-hmm.
So to put it in perspective, you you found your education declining from your foundation.
Definitely.
All right. So definitely. I'm only reiterating that in terms of if more of our children began that way, including myself, then yes, you would almost see the general population of public school being inferior because you already know your history. You already have jumpstart a majority of us.
Exactly.
Outstanding.
Exactly.
So then after Gregory School, you're grown now. You end up at this research center with it.
Right. Wow. So as time went on, I went through my regular adolescent thing, growing up in Trenton, New Jersey, on Stuyvesant Avenue. High school, playing sports, stuff like that. So, one of my first jobs that I worked at, not the first, but one early in my work career was at a place called Wyeth Research. It was a pharmaceutical company, and kind of like North Brunswick, Princeton, New Jersey area, and that was a new experience for me as well. It was a good job. I like the employees who worked there. I learned a lot. And from there is where I went to the U.S. Secret Service.
Wow. All right, so let's get to the meat and potatoes of it, because I know everybody is like, oh, yeah, that's cool. All right, great. He's from New York, Jersey, whatever.
Right.
We want to know what's taking place in the book about the issue with the N-word in Secret Service.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that's standing out. So let's. I've read in the book that you were, yes, indeed, going through your issues on how to take the exam, and they having you going back and forth.
Right.
Kind of take the listeners to this process and how it seemed a little convoluted and foreign to you. Take us through that process of the examination of trying to become a U.S. Secret Service officer.
For me, it was a new experience because I had never been or knew much about any aspect of law enforcement besides just seeing police out in the streets. I don't think nobody in my family is in any branch of law enforcement either. So for me, it was just one of those things where I was learning as I went along, and I followed directions, did what I had to do. But it was kind of weird also. It was kind of weird. I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what a polygraph was. I thought a polygraph was something where just people who, killers, people crooks or whatever, before they had to take a polygraph to prove that they're innocent or guilty or whatever. So that right there was a initial hurdle for me. I'm like, a polygraph, what's that? So I did a little research and read about polygraphs and seen what it was all about. So went and did the polygraph thing, but surprisingly, I had to take another one. And I'm like, hold up, man. I didn't know. I don't know why I had to take one. I don't know if a lot of people have to take 2 polygraphs, but I noticed they gave me 2 polygraphs, man. I'm like, me personally, I don't think that I would have had the opportunity to take another one if I didn't clear the first one,
Okay.
Me personally, Yeah. But that was kind of weird. That was kind of a weird thing for me to have to take, 2 polygraphs. Besides that, there are all kinds of stuff like I discussed that was going on in the background phase of the, a lot of it had to do with just me personally and what I needed to do to even get on the job. There was a lot of stuff going on in Trenton, New Jersey at the time. I felt like I needed to do some things to make sure I was okay, with nothing to do with the job,
Yeah.
So it was all kinds of things going on. I was always the type that stayed in my lane usually anyway, but if I felt like something was, I wasn't going to take no loss for nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm one of those type of people.
It's funny, Muhammad, because I saw that conflict early in your writing where, here it is. You did not want to be a police officer in Trenton.
Right.
Because you didn't want to, you didn't want to be one who was starting to arrest people that looked like you.
Right.
And so I already saw that earlier conflict. Of your integrity and your morals.
Right.
But I also found that it was good that someone of your background to be in this, because more people like you need to be in law enforcement, so that they bring good morals and good judgment to not, always just generalize everyone, or at least stereotype them for that matter.
Right.
So You know, I saw that you mentioned about the Bill Clinton's '94, crime bill, and that really reinforced what you did not want to be a part of in local police, right?
Correct.
Because he was already damaging that bill, already damaging our community,
Correct.
which I still disagree with wholeheartedly to this day.
To this day, still destroying us.
So you finally fast forward. You finally make it through. They've hired you. You then make it to the JJRTC, which is
it's the training site for the U.S. Secret Service. So the training site for the U.S. Secret Service law enforcement employees is JJRTC, or the James J. Riley Training Center. So this is where we started at. But in addition, we have to go to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center down in Glencoe, Georgia, also. So I started out at JJRTC for probably, I think it was maybe a week, and then had to go down to Georgia for a couple months and then come back and finish at JJRTC.
Okay, so then you made the comment that this place was so bad that they ranked last out of all the federal government agencies. They ranked the 305 agencies, they ranked 305.
At one point.
At one point. Why?
I would say that at one point, this ranking could be looked up for anybody that wants to check that out also. Me personally, I think the agency is pretty much was pretty much destroyed due to dysfunction from management. Years and years of dysfunction from management. And like I tell people about that ranking comes into consideration of Caucasian employees. It does not come into consideration of us and what we go through, as employees in the agency. So I believe that from years of no oversight, a lot of managerial dysfunction, good old boy clubs, networks and stuff like that, helping their buddies out, people helping their buddies out, moving them through ranks. And eventually you have some of the worst apples in place and it goes and destroys the whole agency. So I believe that's where that comes from as far as the low ranking. But again, it's a whole nother aspect to that ranking that wasn't discussed. Which was what we go through as African American, Latino employees in the agency, because that ranking wasn't in consideration of our struggles.
Because it's disproportionately Caucasian.
Definitely.
What, 10%?
I don't know exactly.
But it's disproportionate.
Of course, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
okay. Definitely. So then training is done. You've gone through all of the issues with some of the racism and training regarding whether you was on the pistol qualification. You got all these people who are really nuts on their guns, and but they also bring in a racism into the picture. Their comments, I'm assuming, always having something to do in their scenarios.
Definitely, that's where a lot of the racism. A lot of people will tell you, recruits who went through the United States Secret Service training, and probably a lot of other agencies will tell you that one way that they tried to camouflage the instructors or technicians or managers or whoever, they tried to camouflage their racism in things like scenarios. So you would have actual scenarios that are supposed to mimic real life situations. But in these scenarios, since it's just acting, you would hear little comments about, black people, Latino people that a so-called role player or actor would be saying, they say, hey, get over here, he's black, or this and that, or that guy, hey, this Mexican, or this Puerto, they would do little things like that and throw their racist comments in these scenarios, but then again, they could always chalk it up as, oh, it's just a scenario, we just acting. So, I paid attention to all kind of little stuff like that. I'm not the only one. Other people, if they go back and reflect, they would pretty much say the same thing. Besides that, in training, we could tell that a lot of our instructors or people who are responsible for training us had issues with black people. I mean, that's known in the U.S. Secret Service, that just training alone is horrible for us. It's a horrible experience, because when you have instructors, who naturally have a disdain for people who look like you, that's going to reflect in their work.
You're ice skating uphill.
Exactly.
Immediately.
Exactly. You don't got to teach a pit bull how to bite. You know how it is. So they naturally going to watch us more, scrutinize us more. And like I discussed in the book, as a result of that, we were trained better. Because of that, because we didn't have the opportunity to make as many mistakes, because we knew these guys were eyeballing us, and then you could see some other people just getting away with everything.
Sure.
We were the first to get terminated, eliminated from training, stuff like that. And then you would see other people get all kinds of chances, mainly white employees get all kinds of chances, chance after failing.
Mm-hmm.
One of us do one thing, boom, you're going home. You're pretty much gone. Yeah. So that's how it was.
So after that training,
Mm-hmm.
now you're sent to the White House because that is the most mandatory position for USS, for United States Secret Service officers, right?
Yes.
UD, the Universal Division.
Yes.
So now you're at the White House. Who's president at the time when you come in?
George Bush.
George Bush.
George Bush.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in an environment where it's disproportionately Caucasian.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you have the white president.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the climate? What's the environment in the White House? The structure, the mentality?
Pretty much the same way it is all the time. Horrible. I would say that racism and white supremacy was the daily SOP. I mean, that's just how it was. This was mainly pushed through, I would say, management. I can't say that I met some honorable. I can say that I've met honorable white men in the U.S. Secret Service. Because we can only judge people off their deeds and how they treat us and how we see them treat our people.
Right.
So I have met good men, good Caucasian men, white men in the U.S. Secret Service, but not many. Most of the officials or managers who were there at the time were hardcore white supremacists, and this always reflected in what they did with their work. They didn't pretty much. I mean, there was the direct incidents where you might hear people, hear racist comments, the nigga comments or stuff like that. Other people would tell you, but more important than that, we were treated like that.
Okay.
Scheduling, promotions, special team assignments. Wow, pretty much every aspect of racism was the foundation of everything at the White House.
So,
point blank, period.
So, no one's there to protect you.
Not at all.
You have solely. It's only a small collection of anyone of African descent working in the United States Secret Service Uniform Division.
Right.
Was there people who? Because there's always someone this way.
Right.
All right. So it's kind of a rhetorical question, but I have to ask. So if there are people who, it's just you look at them and shake their head like, do you not see what's going around you? I read in your book, you had mentioned an officer by the name of Jubilee Alexander.
Right.
All right, and how he was one of these officers who just smiled all the time. There was nothing wrong ever whatsoever.
Right.
Give me this. Not only tell the viewers briefly about this person, but just how common was that in Secret Service?
So this person, this character, he was a representation of a lot of our people, a lot of our African American men. The culture for our people inside the U.S. Secret Service at the White House at the time was simply just we were very scared. We were very scared, very, very docile and passive.
Welcome back from that short intermission. We're continuing our conversation with Muhammad Abdul-Raheem on his book, The N-Word is No Secret to the Secret Service. So, where we had left off, we really got into detail about various things, but the last thing was about the shucking and jiving that you see of people of African descent. But further on into your book, I in one specific chapter, you talked about the white woman privilege.
Right.
Please elaborate that from your point of view.
Right.
How that continues in the Secret Service and how it benefited.
Okay, so from the time that I started in the U.S. Secret Service, in my experience and from what I've observed and witnessed, and from things that I've heard from quite numerous other people, there was always this phenomena of white women within the agency who just seemed to could do no wrong. I mean, these women were pretty much pushed through the ranks, without proving themselves, afforded certain positions, whether it be a technician's position, management, high-ranking officials, and these women were usually people who never did anything to deserve these positions except show up. This never happened. I never seen this happen with our people. I mean, our women weren't moving through the ranks. African American people weren't really moving through the ranks at the pace that these women were moving at. And then on top of that, there was a heavy disciplinary double standard when it came to Caucasian women. You know, they could seem to never get in trouble. I mean, and I've heard, and I know for a fact, and other people have heard of some of the most foulest acts that you could think of that they were participated in, or had done, and you would never see them, their security clearances being suspended. You never see them on those do not admit sheets that they send around. They usually always were plastered with black men's faces on them, Latino men. You very, very, very rarely did you see or even hear about Caucasian women getting in any type of trouble for anything that they did. And I believe this is because they were protected by higher ranking officials for, you know, things that they might have known about them years prior, from things that they have done, you know, maybe early in their careers, or things, information that they knew. Whereas these people felt that they had to protect these women, whether it be for something that they wanted now, or something that these women knew about them from the past.
So, I mean, could you kind of just give us one scenario? I mean, because when I hear this, there's a lot of things that are going on in my mind historically. You know, I'm starting to think about the Willie McGee case, the Emmett Till case, you know, the Rosewood. Right. The list goes on and on where the culprit has the common denominator of so many of the atrocities, the Scottsboro boy case, the culprit of so many atrocities, but yet benefactors of affirmative action and systematic racism has always been Caucasian women. It just seemed like that's a continuous pattern. Right. So, like, give me an example. Give us an example on, like, what really stood out where you just had to shake your head and said, this is just ridiculous.
For me, it was the unethical, besides the illegal behaviors and illegal things that have been done, it was more so the unethical behaviors, sexual relations, not getting in trouble for them. You know, I'm talking about, we talking about things for where as far as being involved in these relations at work, and you don't hear about these women getting in trouble. You don't see them being walked out. You never seen them getting their security clearance snatched. They pretty much were always covered up. You know, it is what it is. It happened. This is what went down, and there's nothing disciplinary that we knew of. I mean, I didn't see people starting to miss days of work, or a lot of times we would see these women being reassigned for certain things and being put in specific positions. But there was a lot of, I would say, unethical behaviors that Caucasian women that I know about have been involved in, and they were never disciplined. They were never disciplined. And this is just a normal phenomenon. This is baked into the culture, you know, of the agency. This is just something that always went on.
And we're definitely familiar with that. For anyone who's a student of history and what we've continuously to go against with systematic racism. So. We fast forward. You see a lot of the privileges. You see some of the racism that goes on. Right. And the chapter then says, keeping your sanity. Right. Just in short, how would you do that with all of this? Because it seems to me all of us of African descent in this country has some sort of post-traumatic syndrome. Definitely. So how do you keep your sanity with this? Definitely.
So for me, I knew that I had to create my own system, my own way of being able to get up and deal with white supremacists at work, systemic racism, racist incidents, seeing my people be abused at work. That, you know, after a while, for me, it was, even though I didn't face a lot of the direct hardships that I've seen a lot of my people face, as far as ridicule, being bullied, being treated very foul by white supremacist officials or even co-workers. Sure. When you start to see your own people be involved in that, it takes a toll on you, you know, and then nothing is being done. So there would be quite a few situations where I would hear certain things, people would tell me things, and I'm like, or I would see it, I'm like, what you want to do? Like, you're not. And so when you don't see anything happening, and when I say happening, I don't mean just going up to somebody, punching them in the face. Although some of these people did deserve to get punched in the face, but you can't, of course, do it in that type of environment.
Sure.
But just using what was put in place to protect you as a government employee,
Sure.
we weren't using those things. So after a while, that starts to take it started to take a toll on me, you know.
Yeah.
Just seeing this and dealing with this every day. So I had to come up with my own system to keep my sanity in order to get through work, block things out, go in and go home and keep my mental stability, you know. Which I think quite a few people have to do, especially us as African Americans, being in systemic racism at these places where we have to do certain things, or you'll go crazy. Yeah. So like I said, discussing the book, my thing was I had to pray. I had to make my prayers. I had to exercise. I had to eat right. I had to avoid certain situations and certain people that nothing good could come out of. Right. You know. So I was the type where after I went to work and I got my workout in the morning, that would usually the high from the workout would usually push me to about noon if I was on a day work shift, and I'd say, okay, I only got a couple hours to go. Sure. But one thing that I made sure I did is I avoided the camaraderie aspect of being around these guys for a couple reasons. One reason was because I didn't want to be put in the category or treated like I seen my other people being treated, and I wouldn't be able to react the way I seen them react. So, as you know, like with us, with our people, we're not looked at as individuals. We looked at it as a group, you know. So if if a white supremacist, for instance, comes to you and he's bullying you every day, or you're going to fetch coffee for him every day, and you're going to, he's calling you whatever, doing whatever, and you're going to fetch drinks for him. When I come along, I got to do the same thing, or I'm looked at as a rebel, difficult, because I'm not doing the same thing, because we don't have the luxury of being treated as individuals. We're all a group. Yeah. So what you do affects me. Right. So my thing was I had to avoid being in these situations with these people. So I wasn't the type, I wasn't going to sit around and break rooms and act like everything was good and watch Sports Center and watch TV shows. And, I would just go away. I would go to a local store, sit by myself. I would go in the locker room. I would go up in the gym. I'd do something just to avoid, being, or even listening to superficial conversations or hearing other guys speak about things, because 90% of the time something was going to come up that was derogatory or just ignorant, and I seen too much. I couldn't do it, so I had to come up with my own system to keep my sanity, and get me through the days.
I think within itself, that is also post-traumatic, because I think the viewers have to put things in perspective. So you have not only an African-American man who is trying to work his way through the system, but you have an African-American man who has his religious obligations. And you can't fault of anyone who has their obligations to how they see their deity. So, being the brother being a Muslim, he has to go and do his prayers, and also, not only finding time in those windows to do so through the obligation, but then come back and you still have to deal with these sorts of individuals. So I give a lot of respect to you for that, my brother.
Thanks a lot.
And so, moving on. This is this particular chapter really. This is the one that I was my second best favorite chapter, because how many presidents did you see come through the White House at your tenure as Secret Service? Two, right?
Two. Yeah,
all right. So the next one so you saw Bush and
Obama.
Right? So there's always been this tug of war in the African American community about their allegiance to President Obama and what they liked about him and what they didn't, depending on who you talk to.
Right.
And I know a lot of people are intrigued about this. This is one of the chapters in the book I want the viewers to understand. So I really want you to just kind of, really give us not only how did you perceive him to some degree from a officer point of view, not personal, but just from an officer point of view, and what was the climate of this racist system in his tenure as a president for 8 years.
I perceived him as another president that we were responsible for, protecting him and his family. This is how I perceived him. But naturally, I did see him as a black man. I did see him as a black man. So as an officer, I seen him as a black man whose family, who we were responsible for protecting, because quite naturally for any one of us, this is what we're going to see. If you're African American, you're a black person, we all see color. You know, it is what it is. So I basically seen him as a man who we had the duty to protect.
Okay.
Happened to be black.
Okay.
The climate when he was in office, surprisingly, no, I can't say it was surprising. Nothing changed as far as the intense systemic racism within the agency. There were a lot of white supremacists, I would have to call them white supremacists because they wouldn't say some of the things that were said. They were just mad and upset that their guy didn't get in. You know, their Republican, their white Republican didn't get in. So a lot of this reflected in their work performance. A lot of this reflected in their work performance. There were also a lot of things that were said. You know, a lot of people would tell anybody that they've heard many co-workers in the U.S. Secret Service say derogatory things about the president, you know, his wife, make racist comments.
Sure.
And clearly it reflected in their work performance. The issue with the U.S. Secret Service is, as far as the agency is concerned in protection, the racism in the agency affected every president, whether it be Obama or anybody before him. Because, like I discussed, naturally, it was almost like the Negro Leagues in the Major League Baseball. Mm-hmm. You didn't see the best players simply because they were black, you know? Mm-hmm. So I consider that a compromise. So in protection. So basically, if you have a team of, let's say, guys who are, tactical team or snipers or anything, and this team is habitual, it has a history of not letting African Americans and Latinos on these teams just simply because they are who they are, this is a compromise of security, because you're supposed to put the varsity team out first. You know, you're not supposed to hold other people back from being on these teams, or your main goal is supposed to be to protect the President of the United States and put the best protection out there. But of course, racism and white supremacy was an issue, so therefore it compromised security.
Okay.
It compromised security.
Okay. So you're saying during his tenure, there were some moments where things could have gotten worse and had. Well, let me rephrase that. So, because I know of some issues in which, particularly with the elevator incident, that wouldn't have happened with a few other presidents.
Well, right.
I mean, I'm just trying to be
right.
I'm trying to be devil's advocate.
Right.
I don't want it to seem as though they were really vigilant in their duties with one president, but not so vigilant with another president.
Well, quite naturally, the thing about a racist or white supremacist, they can't hide their feelings. As much as they try to do things to cover up, it always leaks out. They can't. They once their emotions are involved, you can always see it. So everybody knows that during the term of President Barack Obama, there were certain things that happened. This is all media proof that happened that were just disgusting. Yeah. Me, from what I see, from the way I seen it, and from some of the characters that were involved, this was a reflection of racism and white supremacy in the agency, and the fact that people just had a natural disdain for President Obama because of the color of his skin.
Can you give me one example? Give one example.
For example, the incident, Constitution Avenue, the shooting. The guy who shot from Constitution Avenue with the high-powered rifle over the Truman balcony. That guy went on Constitution Avenue with his high-powered rifle. He had already made threats. And he was interested in killing the president. So this could happen. Okay, somebody can get on Constitution Avenue and shoot a gun. Okay, we know that. So the Secret Service, whether any division, you can't prevent a nut from doing what they want to do. I mean, you can put up measures, but if somebody wants to do something crazy, they're going to do it. But what I would notice is the reaction to these things and how they went about it with certain people who are involved. So in that incident right there, you have a nut who shoots a high-powered rifle from Constitution Avenue, boom, shoots the Truman balcony. There are officers around and this is all in the new Washington Post. People can check this story out. The Congressional Oversight Report. People can go read it. So there are officers around who said that there was somebody firing a rifle. There's somebody under the Truman balcony who says there's stuff falling down, like somebody's shooting a rifle. You know, somebody's doing something. Somebody's shooting a gun. Now, the official involved, a white supremacist official, you know, who most of us would know him as, no shots fired. He said no shots fired. You know, no shots fired, nothing. So these officers who are not very far from where this person is shooting this high-powered rifle, again, no, we got shot. Somebody shooting, you know, letting rounds go. No shots fired, stand down. The person under the Truman balcony is a female officer. Again, there's debris falling from the Truman balcony, clearly evident that shots are fired. I mean, it is the White House. This is the president. You hear guns, you hear a high-powered rifle, you see debris falling down. People actually see this, they hear this, they can smell it. No shots fired, stand down. Okay. After this was over, it wasn't reported to the president and his family that this happened until an usher seen glass on the floor inside the White House, and he told Michelle Obama, because you know the ushers and people who work in the White House, they're pretty close with the first family. So it took for an usher, not anybody in law enforcement, not in protection, to tell Michelle Obama that it's glass on the floor. Of course, quite naturally, she's like, what happened? So she goes ahead and makes her call and say, what's going on? Like, get your boys in check, like, what's going on? So that right there clearly showed that these people would rather protect one of their white supremacist brothers in the agency than give important information which was an assassination attempt on the president of the United States of America. I mean, where else did that happen at? I mean, it's almost like the people involved in this, or this guy that was involved in this, protecting him took priority over protecting the president, which is the sole reason why you're here. Mm-hmm. That's just straight crazy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, an assassination attempt on President Barack Obama. White House officials know about it. They didn't report it. Michelle Obama, an usher told Michelle Obama that there was glass on the floor, and that's how they found out that somebody was. When the agency, the officers already knew what happened, you know, but it wasn't reported. Nobody reported to inspections. Nobody did anything. But this pretty much is to cover up, you know, one of their brothers, one of their buddies. It's just sickening. Now, where else does that happen at? Now, did things happen under other presidents, like security breaches throughout history? Of course, we heard about it. But we never heard about nothing like this happening. This is just crazy.
I never heard.
You'll never hear about anything like this happening. This is just ridiculous. Why? Culture of racism and white supremacy in the agency. What else could it be? Yeah. What else could it be? Yeah. And what gets me is the people that are involved in these incidents, these things that happen, whether it be Salahi incident, these white people are not even disciplined. You know, had it been one of us, we come on, man, we fire immediately. You gone. Yeah. And each one of these incidents that I speak out about in the book, the parties involved, who Caucasian officials, they weren't disciplined. Mm-hmm. The only people that were disciplined were some black men. Surprisingly, you know, and that's just a reflection of the culture of racism and white supremacy in the agency. It's disgusting, you know, but this is the norm. This is how things went down. So during the term of President Obama, of course, the agency was already a flop job before that, you know, but what happened during his term is we see more of the racism and white supremacists, their emotions reflected in their work performance, which compromised his security quite a few times, right. You know, right. And that's how things went down. In addition to all the other, you know, comments, like people will tell you, racist guys are making comments, telling racist jokes, telling nigga jokes and stuff like that. That's just, you know, that's what they do.
You know, I find the irony in all of this too is, you know, in fact, my sponsor just told us we had to take a short break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. So we're going to continue this conversation with Brother Muhammad, and in this conclusion, you know, bro, I want to know, and I'm sure others do too, when you put out such information like this,
Mm-hmm.
is there any concern? And it's part two question. Is there any concern?
Mm-hmm.
And when are you able, after your career, able to expose these names that you've been putting in the book and all of the intel without any consequences?
Okay, so to answer the first question, I didn't. What was the first question?
Well, the
again?
first question is what let me rephrase it. Let me just put it all in one. Are you concerned about your security?
Okay, no, I'm not concerned about my security. I'm protected, you know.
Okay.
I'm protected. I have spiritual protections
Okay.
myself, you know, so I'm not concerned about that. But as far as when people say the word putting information out or exposing things like that, and is there a concern for that? I haven't put out anything or exposed anything. Everything that I speak about in this book, that I talk about on camera, is already in the news.
Okay.
If anybody Google, a lot of people don't know this. You can Google U.S. Secret Service congressional oversight. Everything is in there.
Okay.
You can look up a lady named her name is Malia Littman.
Okay.
She spent, I think, over $100,000 of her own money to expose the sexual misconduct within the Secret Service. Anybody can look her information up. She
Okay.
was in the news.
Okay.
The congressional oversight is public information. Washington Post, Baltimore Sun, New York. These incidents are all in the national media already.
Okay.
The only thing is, see, what happens is we have short memories. We get the information and you let it go. But when I speak on the information, I give it from the perspective of an African American man, which is not how other people are going to see it. I know a lot of these incidents that I speak about in the book were race related, were based with racism, and a lot of the parties involved were people who had a reputation for being white supremacists and racists within the agency. That's the only difference. So anything that I speak about in the book is nothing new. I don't speak about any confidential things that I might know or things that I've seen or any things that involve me. I wouldn't do that anyway. But I made sure that anything that I spoke about in this book, people can reference it. Because again, somebody would say, "Oh, come on, that's great. That didn't happen." That's why anything that I spoke about in this book is already in the news. You can just Google it. You can go to the congressional oversight. You can check that out. There's stories with the guy shooting on Constitution Avenue. The guy, the fence jumper who jumped over, ran inside the White House, would have made it physically in the. This never happens. This is another one that never happened. Would never happen anywhere else either. A guy jumps the fence and physically makes it in the White House with a knife to kill President Obama. He said he was going to do it prior. And he made it all the way inside. There's video of this. You can see him walk right past. But he was subdued, of course, by African-American officers who received no valor awards and nothing for that. But that's a whole nother story. And I don't remember anybody being disciplined, any Caucasian employees being disciplined for this. But, again, anything I discuss in the book is public information.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. A lot of people ask that question.
Yeah, when they see their names in the book, like, how dare he?
Well, I had to change names.
Okay, and that's no problem.
Yeah, I put a disclaimer in the beginning. Of course, I had to change names
Right.
and different things like that to protect people's identity.
Sure.
But yeah. So,
But the scenario is the same.
The scenario is the same.
Okay.
And these people, the descriptions or what you see about certain characters in the book, most people will be able to relate to that, somebody at their job.
Absolutely.
So, you know what I'm saying? So this could be 100 people. You know, it could be 5 people, it could be 100 people, it could be 3 people. So yeah.
Okay. Well, one final question I have for you, bro, is what's your message to the employees out there who, not only in the Secret Service, but any African American in the federal government who deals with this? What's your message to them?
Well, that was one of the reasons why I wrote the book. Okay, so my message, one of the messages in this book was I wanted people to be able to read this book and know that there's somebody out there that's just like them, because 90% of us, probably all of us, are dealing with systemic racism at a job, whether you're in law enforcement, whether you work at UPS, Walmart, wherever, you're dealing with it at work. That's just how it is. It's baked into pretty much everything that we deal with. So I wanted people to know that it was somebody out there like them that they can read this and relate to. Another reason why I wrote it is because the youth, oftentimes we go into these positions in the government, People often tell us, hey, just get in there, do your job, do a good job, and you're gonna be okay. You're gonna move up. You're gonna do this, and just be a good employee. That's not the case for us. Being a good employee is not going to get you where you need to get when you're dealing with institutions that thrive off of systemic racism. And I wanted to give a heads up, something that we never had, going into these positions. I wanted to give the youth a heads up as to what they can look forward to when they get in here. Who are the characters? What they might have to deal with, how to react, what to do as far as minimal conversation, email, stuff like that. I also wanted our people to know that everybody that looks like us is not with us. That's very important. That's one that bamboozles us often, and we're often used and dog walked by our own people, in these positions. And we often go into these positions thinking that because people look like us, they have our best interests at heart, they're going to help us out. And what I don't like, one of the worst people to me, working in the Secret Service, were the African American officials or veterans who took advantage of this fact. They would take advantage of the youth. They knew that.
Who you call the cape wearing Negroes.
The cape wearing, butter biscuit eating, bellhop Negroes. Yeah, they know, that they're in there, they're heavy. And if you're going to be one of them, if you're going to be a coon or sellout, that's what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. But what's horrible to me is to take advantage of people who don't know any better, Yeah. So a lot of these guys, they would go to their own people, the young people coming into jobs, the rookies, and use them as flex tools to get what they need to get.
Sure.
These are the worst kinds of people to me. These are the guys who I despise. I don't like them at all. Because if somebody wants to deal with being a sellout or a coon, he gonna have to, that's gonna affect him in the long run anyway. Yeah. But when you take that position and you use your own people as props to show off to your daddy and to flex and show that, hey, I'm honorable, I'm on your side, look what I'm doing, I'm writing these guys up, I'm doing this. But you're using your own people. You're naive. Mm-hmm. Of course, African Americans going into these businesses, we already naive. We don't know what's going on. Using your own people as flex tools. These are some of the most disgusting individuals to me, and that's why it was important for me to write that one chapter in that book for anybody who wants to embark on a career, whether it be in law enforcement or anything in corporate America, the youth, our people, to know what to look for and what to do when these things encounter you, because we've been lied to, and what we've been told it hasn't been working for us.
There you have it, family. I mean, from an eyewitness, from an employee who was over in that agency for several years, he's seen it for himself. Mm-hmm. And then in the words of one of your friends, it's the same for us, bro.
It's not for us.
I mean, unfortunately, I've always been one that try to advocate more of us get involved into law enforcement to try to change things from the interior perspective. That's mm-hmm. That's my spook that sat behind the door type mentality. Mm-hmm. So we try to change things from in. Right. But I really want the audience to know that I've been knowing this brother for like the last year or two. Mm-hmm. And this comes to a surprise to me that he wrote this book. And in the moment that I saw that the moment he had advised me that the book was out, I immediately purchased this book. And I want you to do the same. Mm-hmm. The N-word is no secret in the Secret Service. Muhammad, man, I really appreciate you, brother.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate you as well.
Thank you. Please, family, get this book, support this brother, make this book the book of the year. He has not failed me in one bit in how he's written this book. It was just absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you. Oh, the book. The book. If you want to purchase the book, you can go on Amazon. We have it right here, in paperback, and we also have it in Amazon Kindle. And you can just type in my name. You can type in my name, which is Muhammad Abdul-Raheem, or you can type in the title of the book, which is The N-Word is No Secret in the Service. It's going to pop right up. If you go on and you type in Secret Service, or if you type in The N-Word is No Secret in the Service, the book is going to pop right up. You can purchase this on Amazon. I believe the price is about $15 for the paperback and $10 for the Kindle version. So, yeah, Amazon.
All right. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, family, for tuning in to to my channel. Please subscribe. All right, so thank you so much, fam, for tuning into the channel. Real Reasons. I'm your host, Chester West. By all means, show some support. Subscribe, share, hit that like button. Let everybody know there's a new sheriff in town to get you the insight on authors such as Muhammad Abdul-Raheem and his great work. Thank you so much for my sponsorship. And I'll be leaving all of this information in the link. So all you got to do is tap it in the bottom of the link of the video. And it's going to give you all of the congressional links and the newspaper to validate everything that this brother has mentioned to you. With no further ado, I appreciate your time. Enjoy.